Just to show you the sheer power of Ida and her winds over the last several hours here in East Baton Rouge Parish, this tree completely uprooted, its base completely out of the ground here in the Kenilworth subdivision in Baton Rouge. We were trying to get all the way to Perkins, but obviously this tree in the middle of the roadway completely stopping our progress. Yeah, Brittany, good evening. Still a very active scene 2 hours after gunfire rang out here in North Baton Rouge. Again, you mentioned we're along Topeka. We are closer to the Mohican side, but plenty of police officers investigating. Still layers of crime scene tape behind me. The East Baton Rouge Parish Coroner's Office still here on the scene, as are many others, investigating yet another fatal shooting, I should say, here in East Baton Rouge Parish. Sylvia, Chris, here at Football Ops, kind of the aura, the frenzy around Kelly's arrival has died down a little bit. It was just over an hour ago when Kelly, led by sirens and a police escort, arrived here with his family and his new LSU entourage here to Football Ops. Behind me, he did have a team meeting. Sylvia, this new townhome complex is Old Goodwood Crossing. It is right at the intersection of Government Street and Jefferson. New empty townhomes. Some of them are still being worked on, but I'm told tonight all of them are vacant, even though one person tonight in the hospital with critical burns. Let's take you to the scene here shortly after 8 o'clock this evening when our cameras arrived. Investigators still here now, but it was a very active scene since then. The fire contained to one unit. We're told the model home of this property. About $120,000 worth of damage done to that unit. All the other units did not suffer any damage. The Baton Rouge Fire Department tells me. Yeah, Michael, those flags behind me, you can tell the wind has arrived. Last time I saw you around 6:30 on WBRZ Plus, I was on Sherwood Forest and the wind had kind of died down, but tonight it has returned and it's sticking around. I talked to the shelter manager just a few minutes ago, and right now they are not at capacity but have 114 people here in this shelter. I've seen a few people trickle in since then, so that number may have fluctuated, but about 115 people. Now here is the news you should know if you are still going to attempt to come to this shelter, which they're hoping you have found your place to ride this storm out. But if you have not, they are asking you to bring blankets, pillows, sleeping bags, because they are out of cots. They are not at capacity, but out of cots. Let's start with what is happening right now. In just the last couple of minutes, the East Baton Rouge Parish Coroner's Office has left the scene. It was here for just about 25-30 minutes, but in the last few minutes before we came on the air, they left after this afternoon's triple shooting. Now let's take you to some video we shot earlier this afternoon. We arrived on scene, our crew did, around 3 o'clock. You can see the window of this white SUV is shot out. The rain has picked up just a little bit, but it's not intense. This wind, though, is just whipping, and I can see the rain, just envelopes of rain. Obviously pretty clear here, just street level, but I did want to show when we first came out from the parking garage, there were a few of these rubber pads. I don't know where they came from. I tried to figure out where so I could explain how far they traveled, and you can just tell how wind is, and there's several across the street from me. But yeah, this is North Boulevard, and the wind just is wicked now. Sylvia, Michael, the state has been in this modified phase 2 since late November and will remain that way until at least February the 10th. The governor choosing not to enforce or enact, I should say, tougher restrictions, instead arguing, as he has for a while now, that better compliance to the current measures will be enough for the state to get a hold of the virus. However, he is encouraging more employers to allow employees to work remotely from home. Well, Michael, this afternoon, or I should say this evening when we spoke to fans, a few of them still seem to have their heads spinning, being caught off guard by this news just around dinner time. But if Twitter.com has taught us anything about this hire, it's that you can find any and every opinion, anyone, to match what you are also thinking tonight. Yes, Sylvia, plenty of residents tonight in Magnolia Woods have damage of their own and are also without power. But as we see so often in Louisiana after a storm, many neighbors coming to the aid of one another. If you are navigating around downtown Baton Rouge today, note the increased traffic around the Capitol as lawmakers return for another special session this year, and there are some major matters they need to address before the session officially starts later this evening. Nadine Abusada joining us this morning. Nadine, the budget needed adjustments this session. What is Governor Edwards requesting? Snappy response is expected from the president on his lack of equal tax payments compared to most working Americans. All right, here we go. We do have to talk about it. LSU football feeling the pressure this morning after a rough weekend over at Tiger Stadium. LSU still ranked, but now sitting at 20th in the country. Yeah, it's the state's Alcohol, Tobacco, and Control Agency that handles the appeals and if bar owners are violating the rules, but they're also the same agency parishes like East Baton Rouge Parish are appealing to for bar reopening approval. That announcement in Baton Rouge expected today, hours before a special Metro Council meeting focused solely on the reopening process. The St. James Wildcats have plenty to celebrate. Just getting on the football field this year is an accomplishment after Hurricane Ida decimated the area. The storm upending the Wildcats' schedule and season start. When they finally were able to take the field, it was with helmets and shoulder pads donated from Jennings High School.
Surreal to say the least, not knowing what we'd have for these kids, whether we would play, not play, who we'd play at that given moment. And here we are, second round of the playoffs, ready to move forward.
The ongoing recovery effort not stopping fans from making the trip to Baton Rouge for the second round of playoffs Thursday night. This football season proving to be a great distraction from the harsh realities of a Category 4 hurricane.
River Parish football is king. And, you know, even in the midst of trials and tribulations, you know, the idea that, you know, you can get back to Friday night football in the River Parish, you know, it brought individuals just an opportunity, you know, to get a release.
Sure, wins and losses still matter, but long before any of this season's games went final, the Wildcats already proving victorious by rallying a community.
Kind of gave people, you know, that needed push that they need, maybe to push through Monday through Thursday, you know, just to get that outlet on a Friday.
To be able to pack a stadium this year, and especially to give something back to the community and have them come out following Ida, it was a sense of normalcy for everyone.
That's not to say there hasn't been pressure to win. That hasn't changed. But what the team takes away from this season has, now meaning a lot more than those from years past.
When you get knocked down, get up. When you get knocked down, get up. When you get knocked down, you get up again.
In Morning Glen, there are homes and residents in every stage of the rebuilding process, and now once again having to deal with the same threat. It's a tale of two storms that have come and gone in the Morning Glen neighborhood. Trees, branches, and limbs piled up from Hurricane Ida just 2 weeks ago, right next to piles of personal possessions thrown out of gutted homes after flooding back in May. Flooding that residents like Jerry Pocarello experienced.
It just kept pouring in, and we have about 16 inches, I think, of water in the house.
Jerry and her husband just able to move back into their home of 42 years in late July.
They were still working on the house 2 more weeks into August, and we still, the shower doors can't come in, front door can't come in. And you're still waiting on your furniture can't come in. I've been pushed back to December for furniture to come in.
Many of their neighbors are still working on their homes, and like some of those neighbors, the Pocarellos did not flood back in 2016.
We thought we were doing pretty good since we didn't flood in 2016, and then, but it hit us. And I mean fast, real fast.
The area fared fairly well during Hurricane Ida, the couple breathing a sigh of relief once again. But now, as they look at Ward Creek rise from their backyard, the nerves have returned with Nicholas.
Here it goes again. It's coming again. And that's what's scary.
But Jerry is not the only one feeling anxious. Her neighbor 2 doors down was able to move back into his home after May flooding just 10 days ago. He's returned home to an unwelcome forecast.
When the water's already come up this much, almost to this cart path back here, you know, I'm scared. But I don't know what to do. What do I mean? We got new flooring? Do you start trying to pick up stuff?
Like the Pocarellos, Michael Hempel and his wife did not flood 5 years ago, but he got a foot of water in his home for the first time in May. Now he's planning to bring some of his household items to higher ground.
We weren't supposed to flood in May. Nobody was supposed to flood in May. You know, and here we are flooded.
With not much they can do for both couples, it's a waiting game. One they've played before, but they say has never been harder.
Now, with the creek being so high, with just rain for today, we're afraid what's going to happen the next few days.
Now, obviously, some good news in the several hours I spent out in Morning Glen this afternoon. While it was raining, The water was flowing freely, and even with a lot of those debris piles, both from Ida and the May floods, were not blocking any of those drainage ways. So that was good news earlier when some of those afternoon bans came in. Live in Baton Rouge, Johnston von Springer, WBRZ News 2.
I guess the word kaboom, my wife she said she can feel it in the house. She could feel something had fell.
Daryl St. Pierre knew a winter storm was coming, but he never expected anything like this.
About close to 8 o'clock, we heard an extremely loud noise. Didn't know what it was, and I looked out the window, and one of my really old water oak trees crashed. One of my prized trees that I love.
The tree uprooted from its front lawn location, its icy branches, limbs, and leaves now leaving Magnolia Wood Avenue impassable.
I've never seen anything like this at all. Even with hurricanes, I never had damage like I've got now.
St. Pierre has called the neighborhood tucked off of Highland Road home since 1989. He's not the only one who saw damage from this winter blast, but he's taking it all in stride, knowing it could have been much worse.
Well, I was shocked that I lost my tree, but I'm glad that it wasn't leaning towards my house, because I don't think we could have survived the fall.
Even with a crater-sized hole in his front yard and an even bigger mess out on the street, St. Pierre keeping a positive attitude, thanks in part to a working generator and some very thoughtful neighbors. By Tuesday evening, a trio of neighbors helping to dismantle the oak to kickstart the process of getting the roadway clear. And St. Pierre thankful for those neighbors. And that the tree didn't take down more lines or injure anyone. He's looking forward to warmer temperatures and getting back in his yard and tending to his landscaping. Everything from his camellias to his remaining trees, like he has for decades.
It seems like every time I get my yard looking the way I want to look, something like this happens. And you got to start over again.
Now, St. Pierre did suffer some damage in his backyard, and he tells me just last year he had a very similar oak tree in the backyard removed that had been leaning, and he says he's very thankful as he believes it could have fallen on the house.